We can't just tell them that they need to read at home. We need to help them and show them how. I've got some tricks for you. Let's go check them out. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sarah, and I show up every Sunday night on this YouTube channel to bring you read-aloud tips and book ideas for you to use in your classroom that week. If this sounds like something that you're interested in, give this video a thumbs up and then make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. Today I want to talk about helping students read at home. I know in many classrooms, we have the expectation that our students should be reading every night at home, but they don't always know how. In our classroom, we have a very structured routine. The students know when it's time to read, where they need to read, what they should be reading, and they are surrounded by readers. All the other students in the classroom, even the adults, are reading at the same time. But when they go home, they don't have that structure. Students may struggle with what book they should be reading. They may struggle with finding a place to read. They may have trouble carving out a quiet time for them to read. In this video, I want to share with you a book that's great to read aloud with your students and then have a lesson that goes along with it so that they are more prepared to read at home on their own. This is gonna be part of a two-part series. The first one's gonna be directed a little bit more towards younger grades. Next week's video will be directed a little bit more towards upper elementary, but both of them will work for all grade levels. So the book that I like to read is How to Read a Story by Kate Messner. This book takes us through 10 steps to reading a book. And they're so simple, but sometimes our students don't even know them. And so going through all of these really helps them be prepared to read at home on their own. So for example, the first step, find a story. The second step, find a reading buddy. The third step, find a cozy reading spot. And each step gives little tips and tricks for how to do each one in a fun way that kids will understand and connect with. And there's even lots of illustrations on the page to give them ideas. So for example, in the Find a Cozy Reading Spot, they talk about snuggling up with a blanket or a cup of hot cocoa, finding a place on the couch or on your bed, and it will give your students ideas of where they can read at home. So once we go through all the 10 steps together, then we start to brainstorm ideas as a class. So for example, the first one, find a story. We talk together as a class about ways that they can find stories on their own. Can they take books home from the classroom? Can they go to the school library to check out a book? Can they go to the local library to check out a book? Do they have books in their home that they can read? We brainstorm this list so that they have ideas of where they can get books from. Then we go into the next step. Find a cozy reading spot. As a teacher, it's fun to share with your students places you like to read. Do you have a special chair that you curl up in? Do you like to read in bed before you go to sleep every night? Do you have a special bench at the park that's fun to read in? This will get their brains moving and they can share their own spots with the class as well. Maybe some of them like to build a fort and read a book in their fort, but having that in their minds of where to go and knowing that picking a spot is important before settling down to read will help them figure that out on their own when they get home. Like I mentioned before, in class, they have a reading spot. Either they're reading at their desks or they have a special spot in the classroom and they know where to go. At home, it's wide open. So again, this helps them narrow down where they can read. The next step is to find a reading buddy. This reading buddy can be an adult in the house, it can be an older or younger sibling, it could be the pet dog, it could be their stuffed animal. Someone that they can snuggle up with and share a book with. And we talk about questions such as, who do you know that loves to read? Who do you know that's a great reader? Who could read to you, or who could you read to? These again gets their brain thinking about who they can share books with at home. It doesn't just need to be by themselves. They don't need to wait for an adult to read to them. They can look at a book by themselves as well. Share that with them. Let them know that they can read a book independently, even if it is just looking at the pictures. The third thing we talk about is finding a comfortable spot to read. Share with them a place that you love to read. Do you have a special chair you like to sit in? Do you read in bed before you go to sleep every night? Do you curl up with a blanket on the couch? Share with them your favorite place. Even bring in a picture of you reading in that place to show them what it looks like. It doesn't need to be anything fancy, just a place that's comfortable. And again, brainstorm the answers to some of the questions. Where is a comfortable place in your house? Where is a place that's quiet and you can focus on your book? Do you like to read inside or outside? Where are the books located in your house? Maybe you can cozy up next to the bookshelf so that if you finish one book, you can grab another one. All ideas to help them establish a reading routine in their home. And by going through these ideas with your students, you're encouraging them to read more outside of the school walls. So many students think of reading as a job that they do in school. Once they walk out of the building, reading's done. We need to share with them that reading is something that's done for pleasure that we'll do for the rest of our lives in so many different ways. And by helping them find a place to sit comfortably, where they can find something to read, who they can read with, helps them see how important reading is outside of the school building. After you read the book with your students and go through all of these questions as a class, I have an activity sheet that you can do with them, and they can take this home and share it with their families and talk with their families about where they want to set up a reading space in their house. And all of this is to prepare them to become independent readers on their own. Not just reading because it's something that they have to do, but reading for pleasure. Reading when they are home for longer periods of time, which we're going to get into in next week's video. We're going to talk about making plans with your students for how they're going to read during longer breaks. So not just reading every night at home or just on the weekends, how we can help them plan for longer periods of time outside of school, whether it's winter break or spring break or summer vacation. How can we set them up for success with reading outside of the school building when they don't have that structure? So the book that I mentioned at the beginning of the video is How to Read a Story, and this one's by Kate Messner. I like how this one is very basic and right to the point for students and easy for them to understand and connect with. The other book that I have for you is a little bit more abstract, and it's a great read. It's a little difficult to read aloud because of the way the images are, but this is another great one to share with your class. It's upside down. This one is How to Read a Book by Kwame Alexander, and an author that I love, and a great story to share with your students about how they can really dive deep into a book. And it's a lot of collage illustration, so again, it's a little difficult to read aloud to see the images sometimes. And it's a little bit more abstract. So he talks about dig your thumb at the bottom of each juicy section and pop the words out. So it has some awesome words and visualizations in it, but it might be a little abstract for the younger crowd. So I definitely suggest starting with How to Read a Story and then moving on to this one if you want to add on to it. So I hope that this lesson was helpful for you and that you'll be able to use it in your class with your students. If it was, give this video a thumbs up and then make sure you subscribe down below, because I will be back next Sunday night with more read aloud tips and book ideas for you to use in your classroom. Have a great week.